Good morning. Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're in Luke's Gospel, our topic of study. We're in chapter 8, and Jesus is delivering in Luke chapter 8 some parables to the crowds that have gathered to hear him. They are coming out to see him. He is the destination, the way John the Baptist used to be. Now people are coming out to see him. And his communication strategy, which all the Gospels tell us is true, particularly the Synoptic Gospels tell us is true, is that his main tool when talking to the crowds was to give parables. And in fact, in Matthew's Gospel, there is a sermon of parables, although the Sermon on the Mount already contains parables. There is a sermon of parables. The parable sermon is Matthew chapter 13. Um, so I want us to, he has just given us the parable of the sower, and he continues by giving these parables. No one, after lighting a lamp, covers it with a container or puts it under a bed, but he puts it on a lampstand in order that those who come in may see it. For nothing is hidden that shall not become evident, nor anything secret that shall not come to light. Therefore take care how you listen, for whoever has, to him shall more be given, and whoever does not have, even what he thinks he has, shall be taken away from him. Now, we have these words in Matthew's gospel, but in completely different settings. The lamp and the lampstand and putting your lamp under a measuring bowl, that's at the very beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, right after the Beatitudes. We don't usually call, you know, putting your lamp under a bushel or letting your light shine, city on a hill, salt of the earth, parables, but that's what they are. They are parables. Parables exist in different forms. In Luke's gospel, also in Matthew's gospel, but in Luke's gospel particularly, we have the parable as short story. We haven't come to that yet, but we think of the prodigal son, or the good Samaritan, or the unrighteous, um, unforgiving servant, which we have in Matthew chapter 18. We There's some parables are literally short stories. They are short stories that are then parables that we apply. And sometimes a parable is longer and has an elaborate meaning, like the parable of the two builders, which we have in Matthew and Luke, we've already seen, or the parable of the sower, which we have in Matthew and Luke. And sometimes parables are short, like the mustard seed. And so, I mean, they're just a line or two. And that's what he's using here about the lamp. Now, what is the point in Matthew's gospel? Therefore, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father who is in heaven. What is his point here? It's not that point at all, is it? He says nothing is going to be hidden. Nothing is going to be hidden. God sees everything. Everything is going to come to light. No one gets away with anything. No one gets to hide anything. Therefore, be careful how you listen to the word. Be careful how you prepare the soil for the word. It all connects back to the parable of the sower. These three things, these three items that he's used elsewhere, he's put pieces together in Luke that he does not put together in Matthew because it's a different setting. And he says um, about the lampstand, everything's going to come to light. And then he says, be careful how you listen. And then he says, um, whoever has, to him shall more be given, but whoever does not have, even what he thinks he has, will be taken away. Now, that's the application of another parable in Matthew's gospel. Do we remember what parable it is? It's the parable of the talents that we have in Matthew chapter 24 or 25. It's in that sermon in Matthew 24:25, the eschatological sermon. It's the passage from which Billie Holiday wrote the song God Bless the Child. Then the Scot shall get, then the not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it still is news. Um, what was Jesus saying there? It's the same thing he's saying here. That's why it's a perfect application. If you have not produced fruit, then what you think you have will be taken away. Remember the parable of the talents. One had five, one had two, one had one. The man with five made double, the man with two made double, the man with one buried his in the ground, and his was taken away to the one who had five. Now, how is this okay? Because it's God who gives the increase. That's why. That's why. And we get that in this parable, the parable of the sower. God is the one who makes the seed grow. 100-fold is an unbelievable return on your seed. It's miraculous. I mean, it is an act of God. It doesn't happen naturally. And so the growth is not evidence that we've achieved anything on our own. It's that we ourselves have been yielding to God and allowing the growth to come through Him. And so I just think it's really cool the way in 16 through 18 he takes parts of other parables in Matthew and he puts them together to connect perfectly with the parable of the sower that he gives us here in Luke chapter 8. Okay, we're going to pick up with verse 19 next time. Look at a passage that we have in greater detail in Mark's gospel. Yeah, but we'll look at Luke's recounting of the events next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.